The cargo bay of the Meridian stank of unwashed bodies and despair. Marcus Webb sat with his back against the cold bulkhead, watching the Noctari guards patrol with predatory grace. 3 days captive and his crewmates were losing hope. Marcus was losing patience. The Noctari were efficient conquerors, tall, pale, moving with liquid precision. Those pointed ears caught every sound. Those eyes, ancient eyes in young faces, missed nothing. Vampire queens of the void, the galaxy called them. Apex predators who drank sentient blood and ruled through terror. The bay doors opened with a hiss. The guards snapped to attention with military precision that would have impressed Marcus under different circumstances. Then she entered, and the temperature seemed to drop. Queen Sylara Noctis. Marcus had heard the name whispered by his crewmates like a curse. Sovereign of the 7th Fleet, conqueror of the Talos sector, the predator who never showed mercy. She was magnificent and absolutely terrifying. Midnight hair fell past her shoulders, skin like porcelain over steel, eyes that caught the cargo bay lighting and threw it back red-tinged. She moved through her entourage like a blade through silk, her court parting instinctively to give her space. Around Marcus, the crew pressed themselves against walls, trying to become invisible. Survival instinct in the presence of a predator. Marcus watched her approach, studied her. Noticed how her eyes swept across the huddled humans with contempt mixed with something else. Was that exhaustion? Boredom? She'd done this before, clearly. Assessed captives, decided fates, moved on. She stopped in front of him, looked down. Waited for him to cower like the others. Marcus met her eyes and stayed seated. Not defiance exactly, just refusal to perform expected fear. "You don't kneel." Her voice carried across the bay, command and curiosity mixed. "I haven't seen a reason to yet." The guards tensed, the crew gasped. Sylara's eyebrow raised fractionally. "Elaborate. You haven't done anything that commands my respect. You've captured my ship and imprisoned my crew. That commands attention, maybe caution, but not respect." Marcus kept his tone conversational. Respect is earned through actions beyond demonstration of power. Sylara stared at him. The silence stretched. Then she laughed, a sound like breaking glass, cold and sharp. "I will return to deal with you personally. I want to understand what makes you different before I decide how you die." She left with her entourage. The bay doors closed. Marcus's crewmates stared at him like he'd lost his mind. What the hell was that? His first mate hissed. Marcus shrugged. "Curiosity. If we're going to die anyway, might as well make it interesting." She did return alone, during sleep cycle when most prisoners were too exhausted for vigilance. Marcus sat awake, somehow expecting her. "You're not surprised to see me," Sylara observed, settling against the opposite bulkhead with inhuman grace. "You said you wanted to understand what makes me different. That requires conversation." Marcus studied her. "What's it like?" "What's what like?" "Requiring blood to survive, being dependent on what every other species considers sacred." Sylara's eyes narrowed. "You're trying to manipulate me." "I'm trying to understand you. There's a difference." Marcus leaned forward. "Your people are called monsters across the galaxy, but monsters don't build empires. Predators do, sure, but sustainable civilization requires more than just taking. So what's the actual structure? How does it work?" Something in her expression shifted, suspicion giving way to cautious interest. "Why do you care?" "Because I'm going to die at your hands probably, and I'd like to understand my executioner. Also, I find other cultures fascinating, even terrifying ones." They talked until the sleep cycle ended. About Noctari biology, the strength, the longevity, the hunger. About their matriarchal structure where queens ruled because female Noctari were demonstrably superior to males. About conquest as survival strategy when your needs put you at odds with every other species. Marcus listened, then offered perspectives Sylara had never considered. Fear-based rule is unstable. It requires constant enforcement. You can never trust that loyalty is genuine. And what would a human know about ruling? Sylara's voice dripped with contempt. Your species barely controls a few dozen worlds. We control them through cooperation mostly. Messy cooperation, sure, but we've survived without becoming predators. Marcus met her glare steadily. Maybe strength isn't just dominance. Maybe it's building things that last through choice. Naive philosophy from prey. Perspective from someone with nothing left to lose. Over the next days, the midnight conversations became routine. Sylara defended her civilization. Marcus questioned its sustainability. They argued about power and choice, about whether cooperation was weakness or wisdom, about what actually made a society strong. Marcus learned about Sylara's rise, the rivals she defeated, the constant threats to her position. She learned about his background in merchant shipping, his fascination with cultures different from his own. Adversaries by circumstance, almost something else beneath that. Everything shattered on the fourth day. Sylara arrived during full cycle with her entire court, fury radiating from her like radiation. This was the queen the galaxy feared, cold, merciless, absolute. The human captives have outlived their usefulness, she announced, voice carrying. They will be processed for sustenance immediately. The court approved enthusiastically. The crew broke into panicked begging. Marcus stood slowly, still meeting her eyes. "Is this what you want?" he asked quietly. "Or what you think you have to do?" Sylara moved faster than human eyes could track. One moment she was across the bay, the next she had Marcus by the throat, lifting him effortlessly. Her fangs extended. Her court watched approvingly. "How dare you question me?" Her voice was fury and ice. "Your prey presuming to understand predator politics." Marcus's feet dangled above the deck, his throat compressed under her grip. Death was absolutely certain if she chose. He smiled. "Kneel or die," Sylara hissed. "Beg for mercy or accept execution. Choose now." With the last air in his lungs, Marcus spoke clearly, "Be my wife." The cargo bay went silent. Even the guards stared in disbelief. Sylara froze, her grip loosening just enough for Marcus to gasp a breath. "You're brilliant and terrifying and the most fascinating person I've ever met," he continued, voice rough. "You're also drowning in a system that forces you to be cruel to survive. So here's my proposal, literally. Marry me. Let me give you political cover to be more than terror. Let's build something that doesn't require you to kill everyone who questions you." Sylara dropped him, stepped back. Her expression cycled through rage and confusion and something that might have been hope. Her court erupted. "This is an insult beyond measure. He must die immediately." Sylara raised her hand. Silence fell instantly. "Why would you make this offer when death was certain?" Marcus stood, rubbing his throat. "Because you deserve a choice. Everyone demands obedience or offers alliances, but nobody asks what you actually want. I'm offering you agency in a life that gave you power but took your freedom. You understand nothing of what you're proposing. Then explain it to me. That's what marriage is, right? Figuring things out together." Sylara stared at him. The entire bay waited. Finally she spoke. "Execution postponed pending consideration. Court dismissed." The guards escorted the shocked court out. Sylara remained, studying Marcus like he was an equation that didn't balance. "You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid." "Probably both," Marcus agreed. "But I meant every word." Sylara summoned Marcus to her private quarters 12 hours later. The space was surprisingly sparse, functional rather than luxurious. She stood by the viewport, looking out at the stars. "Do you understand what you proposed?" she asked without turning. "Marriage to me means becoming consort to a queen whose enemies would target you constantly, whose position requires demonstrations of strength that conflict with your values, whose biology means I'd need to feed from you regularly." She turned. "Are you prepared for that?" "I'm not naive about the difficulties," Marcus said, "but I'm certain about what I saw in our conversations. Someone trapped by her own power, forced to perform cruelty, never able to trust that people value her rather than what she represents. And you're different. I'm offering genuine partnership. My outsider status provides advantages. I'm not competing for power among your people. My perspectives can be filtered through your authority. You implement changes while maintaining your reputation." He paused. And yes, the feeding is terrifying, but also intimate. Trust and vulnerability go both ways. Sylara studied him for a long moment. "This started as desperation to save your crew." "It started that way," Marcus admitted. "But everything I said was true. I could have offered anything. I chose proposal because it's what I actually want." "Why?" "Because you're remarkable. And because maybe the vampire queen who rules through fear can learn from the human who faces death with proposals instead of pleas." Solara's expression softened fractionally. "This won't be traditional romance. It will be alliance built on mutual respect and calculated benefit." "I'm okay with that. You'll be consort, protected status but subordinate position. As long as you actually listen to my perspectives." "I will." She moved closer. "But publicly, you're a prize I've claimed, a human whose unusual thinking makes him valuable. That maintains my reputation while explaining the anomaly. I can perform that role. Can you perform the rest?" She touched his throat where her grip had left bruises. "This part is real, Marcus. I am predator. You would be prey who chooses to sustain me." Marcus covered her hand with his. "Consent transforms everything. Even predation becomes partnership when both parties choose it." Sylara smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. "You're either very wise or very foolish. Definitely both." He grinned. "So is that a yes?" "That's a yes." The formal announcement was carefully staged. Sylara framed Marcus as her claimed prize, demonstrating her dominance while explaining his presence. Her court accepted this because it maintained their queen's fearsome image. But privately, the dynamic was more balanced. Marcus advised on diplomatic situations where fear alone was counterproductive. Sylara implemented changes that made her empire more stable without appearing weak. And slowly, carefully, their political alliance became something more genuine. The feeding requirement became intimacy, her predatory nature meeting his willing vulnerability. The strategic partnership evolved into actual affection. Weeks later, they stood on the observation deck of her flagship, discussing their next political challenge with the easy rhythm of partners who'd learned to balance each other. "I never imagined my life could include this," Sylara admitted. "Power maintained without constant performance, strength through choice, not just dominance, someone who stays because he wants to." Marcus took her hand. "I never imagined proposing to a vampire alien queen threatening my life. But then again, I've always been terrible at conventional romance." She laughed, actual warmth in the sound, and squeezed his fingers. "You taught me something, Marcus. That sometimes